What's up, motherfuckers? I have reached 250 subscribers, which of course means it's time for the Q&A and Rant Apocalypto, motherfuckers. I know this is for a very niche audience that is already part of my relatively small audience, as pointed out by some of the people who commented on my Vince McMahon video. So before we start on the rant and Q&A, a bunch of these idiots, man, they piss me off. And like, not piss me off like in a serious way, but I went to their pages just to kind of get an idea of who they were, right? Because, you know, just like Hillary Clinton said, you know, when they go low, or was it Michelle Obama? Michelle Obama, I think. When they go low, we go high. Well, I got news for you, pal. The haters' motto is, when they go low, hater goes lower, motherfuckers. Don't mess with that hater. So anyways, there was these two nerds, right? They were talking shit. One of them, like, I went on his channel. I'm not gonna mention their names because quite honestly, I don't remember. But one of them on their channel, they talk about like action figures or something, right? And they're like surprised why they don't have more subscribers, or like they have a lot of subscribers, but I watched part of their one video, right? Just to see what this person sounds like. And this guy was like, well, oh, I keep getting subscribers, but I don't get any views. How could this be? And I'm like, you're not fooling anyone. Let me tell you how this could be. You're paying to get subscribers, but no one wants to watch your shit. That's what it is, man. You know, because for me, I get more views than I get subscribers, and I haven't paid one dime to anyone to advertise my videos or any of those like sprizzies or drizzles, whatever the fuck they are. They put your video over. No. Either I'm gonna do it normally or I'm not gonna do it at all. And the other guy, there was another guy. I'm confusing these people now. One of them had like his avatar is like a little action figure type thing, you know, bunch of nerds. They're like, oh no, Vince McMahon isn't good. Vince McMahon sucks. Yeah, get out of here. I don't give a fuck. Now, before we start the Q&A, one more thing. We got to do our every video, what's it called? Roster run, as I'm going to start calling it, where we talk about our new subscribers in this bitch. Who do we got here, motherfuckers? I see another comment here. Otto Buck commented, AEW and this channel have something in common. I'll let you figure it out. I don't know. What is it, Otto Buck? What is it? Is it that both the hater and AEW suck? Why would you say that, Otto Buck? You know what I'm saying? What did I do to you, Otto Buck? Or could it be that AEW and this channel have another thing in common? We're both better than you, Otto Buck. You understand what I'm saying? All right, let's just get to it now. I think we left off at Joshua Ivory was my last new subscriber. Let's go up the list. I should have written this down, but I didn't for some reason. Let's see what we got here. New subscriber, Cobra. Welcome, Cobra. I like you. Your avatar is Hellboy, which is one of the cooler superheroes, so I like him. This guy sucks. A new subscriber. New subscriber, Long Boy. One of the greatest names I've heard in my life, Long Boy. I don't know why I find that so funny, Long Boy. New subscriber, Jason Harden. Nothing much to say here. He doesn't have a picture, but thanks, Jason Harden. Welcome. And yeah, I guess the other ones are hidden, which is good, because now we can move on to the Q&A, motherfuckers. Some of you, I'm sure, have been waiting for this. The structure will be like this. I have written down the questions. There weren't that many, and they've written down the rant topics. There were a few rant topics as well. So this video hopefully won't be that long, but we'll get to it. And as a bonus, some people, this is very strange, but I guess some people that watch my videos found, I guess we watched some of the similar things. Like I watched some wrestling video on YouTube, and I commented on it as the hater, and someone commented on my comment asking me like a question or two. And this happened like 2 or 3 times. So I'm going to address those questions as well, because I aim to please, motherfuckers. All right, let's start with the questions. Zwei asks, my favorite movies. He asked my favorite movie, but I personally think that someone doesn't really have one favorite movie, right? Because there's different genres. And it's hard for me to compare like my favorite, I don't know, action movie to my favorite comedy, right? They satisfy different things. But at the top of my head, one of my favorite actors of all time, motherfuckers, is Nicolas Cage, bitches. Nick Cage. I hope he makes a comeback one day. Nick Cage is one of my favorite actors. So one of my favorite movies of all time has to be Con Air. Now, if anyone hasn't seen Con Air, I recommend you do so. The premise of the movie is Nicolas Cage is like a soldier who comes back from war and is dancing with his wife, and he gets like harassed by these rednecks, right? So he whoops their ass and kills one of them by accident. So then he has to go to prison for like 7 years or whatever, right? Meanwhile, his wife's pregnant, has the daughter. So the movie fast forward 7 years. Nicolas Cage is getting out of prison, but he has to be transported from the prison he's at to another prison in order to be released, right? And this transportation will be aboard an airplane that is transporting like the worst criminals in like America, basically, right? And these criminals take over the airplane. So like while it's in the air, you know? So now Nicolas Cage has to be a hero and save the day, motherfuckers. So that movie's great. The Rock, the movie, not the actor. The Rock, starring Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery. Another one of my favorite movies. Rush Hour 1 and 2, motherfuckers. Jackie Chan is also one of my favorite actors of all time. That's another thing. A lot of people like, Jackie Chan is so underrated because everyone's always like, oh, Jackie Chan, he's just a stunt double. He's a comedy guy. No, Jackie Chan is a legit actor, man. And here's how I know he's a great actor. You can't replace Jackie Chan. They haven't even tried to replace him. You know what I mean? Like, there's a few actors that are like it, like Jackie Chan, Jack Black, Giovanni Ribisi. These are actors that you really can't replace them, right? I don't even like Jack Black that much, but I recognize that he's great because there is no other Jack Black, right? Like, you have Arnold Schwarzenegger. The other one is now The Rock, right? John Cena is also going to be another one, right? They're easily, like, replaceable people. They're awesome. Like, Schwarzenegger is awesome, but they're replaceable people, you know? Whereas Jackie Chan, you can't replace that guy. They tried doing it with, like, Jet Li, who has, like 1/100th of the charisma that Jackie Chan has, and it didn't work, obviously, you know? So, yeah, those are some of my favorite movies. Con Air, The Rock, Rush Hour 1 and 2, and Terminator 2, Judgment Day is one of my favorite movies of all time, motherfuckers. Inglourious Bastards, I liked. Shawshank Redemption, everyone likes. Godfather Part 2 is pretty cool. You know, the usuals, motherfuckers. What else we got? But as far as more recent movies go, Kingsman 1 and 2, I liked Kingsman 1 and 2. I don't really like James Bond type stuff, but I really enjoyed Kingsman 1 and 2. And Prisoners with Jake Gyllenhaal and fucking Hugh Jackman. That was a great movie too. That's kind of recent. All right, motherfuckers. But if I had to choose one of them, I would have to go with Con Air. You can't go wrong with Con Air. Con Air is like one of the best movies ever made. So Con Air's my favorite movie. Top 5 finishers. Zvai also asks what my top 5 favorite finishers are. All right, let's see. This is weird because there's a lot of finishers, right? Okay, one of them is gonna have to be like probably number 5. Is gonna have to be the 3D. All right, the 3D is a great finisher and is the best tag team finisher ever because it's just awesome. You know, it comes out of nowhere, but there's like a setup to it, kind of. There's almost like a choreography, like a dance to it. You know what I mean? And that's why like the Shatter Machine that Dash and Dawson do is cool because it's the same thing as the 3D, except instead of doing a cutter, the guy does like a code breaker. So the 3D is one of my favorite finishers. Also, I really liked it because no one kicked out of it. You know, you knew the match was over when it was hit. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty cool. Then I have to go, number 4, I have to go with the pile driver, motherfuckers. The pile driver, I'm a big fan of the pile driver. You know, the pile driver, if used correctly, kayfabe-wise, is one of the best moves ever. Because the pile driver, is always considered this, like, super dangerous move. And it's so simple, yet so effective. And there's so many derivatives of the pile driver, you know, like the Canadian Destroyer, the Tombstone, right? But at the end of the day, all it is you pick the guy up and you drop him on your head, right? On their head, I should say. So that's a pretty cool finisher as well. Now, here's where it gets tricky. I didn't even write this list down. I'm doing this on top of my head, so this list might change by tomorrow. But here's where it gets tricky, though. I will say, one of my favorite all-time finishers, right, has to be the Sweet Chin Music. But I can't put it on the list anymore, motherfucks. Because the Young Bucks, by the way, I'm making a video about those assholes now because I've learned some new information thanks to my boy J-Rant. You know what I'm saying? So, the Young Bucks and other indie wrestlers have ruined the super kick. So now it's like it actually has an impact. When I see Shawn Michaels come back and he has like a super kick on like, I don't know, EC3 or some jobber, right? It's like, who cares? Like, Young Bucks do this all the time. So, the super kick would be number 3. But I have to pick a new one for number 3. Let's see what we've got. I mean, my 2 and 1, I think are pretty important and are pretty static. But my 3 now is going to have to be, I'm going to throw in a submission finisher in there just because it's a move that I always marked out for. And that is Kurt Angle's ankle lock, motherfuckers. That move was great. There's a compilation on YouTube of Kurt Angle making people not pass out, tap out to the ankle lock, and it's just fucking great, right? He would like before he started like going down and grapevining it, when he would just stand, you know, and he would just like wrench the ankle, and the person's like screaming in pain. It was just great. And I always liked Kurt Angle. He was one of my favorites. So I always wanted him to like make the guy tap out. So I really, really liked Kurt Angle's ankle lock, you know? And I thought it was great because it's also an example of Kurt Angle like evolving from just like a wrestler who does like the angle slam and a bunch of suplexes to like a submission guy and kind of adding to his character a bit. So I like that a lot. Number 2 and number 1 can really go either way. So I'll say it this way. Number 2, the pedigree, motherfuckers. The pedigree. Now, I've said a lot of bad things about Triple H. Not bad things, but I've said a lot of things about him being like an aging douche and like pretending he's like a Johnny Depp type of guy with the bracelets and the that kind of stupid shit. But I will say something. In the pedigree, there's no move like the pedigree, you know? Like, the pedigree is just great because, once again, like the pile driver, it's simple and it looks like it hurts. And Triple H does it obviously very well. And when it's taken by like a Mankind or something like that, like Mankind took the pedigree through on thumbtacks. That was insane, motherfuckers. So the pedigree, definitely number 2, you know? Close to number 1, but not number 1, motherfuckers. And the number 1 finisher, in my opinion, has got to be, that's right, motherfuckers, the clothesline from hell, motherfuckers. Also known as the bully killer. You know what I'm saying? Or not the bully killer, but like the thing that bullies people because, you know, JBL's a bully up in this bitch. The clothesline from hell is just fucking awesome. You know, like it's the only time that a regular move has turned into a finisher and I've enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Like when Cucky Rhodes first debuted in WWE, he did this DDT and he was like 19 and JR would say things like, wow, he's perfected the DDT. And like Trevor Murdoch too had like a DDT finisher for a while. He's like, Trevor Murdoch has perfected the DDT. And I'm like, no, they haven't. Like they've just decided to use it as a finisher. How has a 19-year-old perfected the DDT? But when The Rock and Undertaker do it, it doesn't hurt as much, kayfabe-wise, right? Makes no sense. So the only time that this has made sense is when JBL invented, like way back in the day, the clothesline from hell, motherfuckers, because it's believable that if a 320-pound, like 6'6", whatever the fuck, 6'7", whatever he is, guy is running at you full speed and hits you with all the anger and vitriol that JBL has in his heart, motherfuckers, it's gonna hurt like hell. You know what I mean? It's a great move. It fits the Bradshaw character. I'm kind of glad that he kept it when he became JBL, but it definitely fits the Bradshaw character, you know? JBL is just awesome, man. JBL is fucking great. I'm gonna talk about him a little bit in my Young Bucks video because the Young Bucks video is gonna be about like the Young Bucks quitting Twitter, which I learned from J-Rants. It nearly broke me, motherfuckers. What are we going to do if the Young Bucks aren't on Twitter? But anyways, let's move ahead. Zwei asks a third question, and normally I would ignore this, but I'm going to let it go because I like Zwei. Zwei's question is, which actor would play the hater in his biopic, motherfuckers? Now, if I had to choose actors from all time, I would choose Nicolas Cage because he's my favorite. And that would be great just to see Nicolas Cage play me. Hey, I don't look anything like Nicolas Cage. But I would love that to happen. But he's also too old. You know, Nicolas Cage is in his 50s. I'm in my early 30s. So if I had to choose someone now, I would have to choose, what's it called? Fucking Jake Gyllenhaal. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is the best actor of his generation. Like, that's not a huge compliment, but he's a great actor, and he's better than like Ryan Gosling and Ryan Reynolds and these other losers, right? He's by far like the most superior one. So I'd have him play me. I have, however, heard in my youth, before I grew my hair out and grew a beard, motherfuckers, when I used to have shorter hair, I have heard people say, oh, you look like Justin Timberlake, Channing Tatum. So my appearance is more of that, like not anymore. Now I have like a scraggly beard and long hair up in this bitch. I look like almost like a neck beard. You know, the only difference is that I shave my neck area so I don't become a neck beard, motherfuckers. But like when I'm clean cut, I have that kind of appearance. So it could be any one of those guys, but I would have to choose Jake Gyllenhaal. He's the man. He's the one that can really capture the essence of the hater, motherfuckers. You know what a neckbeard would say? They'd be like, oh, I want Clark Gable to play me. Is that even an actor? Or I want Humphrey Bogart to play me. Get the fuck out of here. It's like if anyone's watched that Netflix documentary on the guy that killed the kittens and then killed the person, like that's what neckbeards are like. They're like that guy, except that guy was like a handsome young guy, and neckbeards are just like virgin losers obese neckbeard having motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? All right, let's move on to the next question. LBT Junkie asks, how many dead wrestlers do I know? All right. I like this question. Let's see. I haven't thought about this through. Pero Aguayo Jr., I think that was his name. He was killed by Rey Mysterio in the ring in like CMLL or AAA or something, right? That really was fucked up. That was like, you can watch that on YouTube, man. It's fucked up. It's like just a freak accident, you know? He was like a young guy. He was just like jumping around the ring like right before he died. He wasn't like, it didn't seem like he should have gotten hurt by that. Basically, like Rey Mysterio kicked him and he fell into the ropes in the 619 position. And I think he just died there. You know? Something happened. He died. Like, the next thing you see is Rey Mysterio goes to do the 619 and misses on purpose because he sees that Perro Aguayo isn't responding, which is a testament to how good Rey Mysterio is, motherfuckers. If it was AJ Styles, he would have broken his neck. Just kidding. But anyways, like, and then Conan is checking on Perro Aguayo and he's dead. And this guy was like in his 30s, man. It's one thing when like he's another wrestler. Here's another wrestler that I know that died. Mitsuharu Misawa. It's another thing when Mitsuharu Misawa dies and he's like in his 50s and it's overweight and is like being dropped on his head. You know what I mean? Like, that's a different story. It's like, all right, dude, like you're 50. You've taken, like, again, 50 is not that old. Like a 50-year-old can conceivably take that move, right? It's just that, like, if you're a 50-year-old who's been wrestling for like 30 years, you know, like almost nonstop, it's gonna have a toll on you, man. And all you do is fuck up once and you're dead, just like Mitsuharu Misawa. Then we have the greatest dead wrestler of all time, motherfuckers, Eddie Guerrero. I love Eddie Guerrero. One of my favorites from day one. He was one of my favorites. As soon as he showed up, not from day one, like as soon as he showed up to WWE, I didn't really watch WCW, but as soon as he showed up and he started like the program with China, I was like, this guy's fucking great, man. Mamacita. You know what I'm saying? That was just fantastic. So Eddie Guerrero is a dead wrestler. Let's see who else we got. We've got how can I forget? Chris Benoit, motherfuckers. Chris Benoit, murdering piece of shit. I liked Chris Benoit when he was a wrestler, but he's a murderer now. So this whole like, oh, Chris Benoit, like, and you know what? I will say this. I am a big fan of separating the art from the artist. You know, I am not okay with them deleting him from the archives. Like, if they don't want to mention him in the future, that's fine, you know? But don't delete his body of work, right? You know, even if he did something as heinous as murder. I don't like this kind of, like, over-the-top censorship, you know? Like, they're doing the same thing in Hollywood. Like, Kevin Spacey, I mean, he's a good actor, but I never watched House of Cards. I thought, like, I watched, like, 2 episodes. I thought it was fucking retarded, personally. It's just, like, House of Cards is just, like, this asshole, like, in D.C., right? And he's, like someone just, fucks with him in episode 1. They're like, you're fired, like Frank Underwood. And he's like, I'm fired, huh? I'll show you one day. And then later that episode, he frames that person, basically. He finds evidence on that person that just fired him, right? And then fucks their life up in the same week in the context of the show, right? And then that person's like, oh my God, who could have done this to me? And I'm like, I don't know, stupid. Maybe the guy who you fired 2 days ago that said he would ruin your life, maybe it's that guy. And then also, Frank Underwood benefits directly from this, right? Like, the person gets, like, he ruins that person's life, and then he gets promoted somehow. So it's like, it's so commonsensical. Who would ruin your life? The guy that said that he would ruin your life, and that benefited directly from your life being ruined. And this woman's like, I don't know who could have done this to me. And I'm like, you can't be this stupid. So how can I get behind that show, you know? Nonetheless, it is what it is. But Kevin Spacey, when he was like accused of like trying to rape that boy, which is a horrible crime, obviously, right? People are like, oh, we're going to delete every Kevin Spacey movie from Netflix. And I'm like, dude, relax, man. Like, he still made good movies. Harvey Weinstein still made good movies. You know what I mean? I'm not like a fan of Harvey Weinstein, but he's made good, like, he's had his finger in a lot of good movies. You know what I mean? So to just pretend that like this guy never existed and that because he's a rapist, his body of work isn't legit anymore, is ridiculous. Same thing with Bill Cosby. He's a successful comedian. He had a very successful sitcom, right? And he did what he did, but it doesn't mean that, like, you know, his art should be deleted, right? Now, with that being said, motherfuckers, all these neckbeards being like, oh, Benoit will always be in our hearts. No, fuck that. Benoit sucks. He's a piece of shit. He's in hell, motherfuckers. He's not in heaven. Let me tell you that. They're like, oh, Benoit's in heaven. If there is heaven and hell, Benoit's firmly below us, motherfuckers. So there you go. There's that. That's the problem. It's the same thing with these other sympathizers. It's like, no, fam. Like, Kevin Spacey, like, let his art exist because that's also other people's art. But Kevin Spacey is a fucking pedophile. That guy sucks ass, you know? I don't want to see him, like, in real life. And if he's a good actor, go ahead. Same thing with Hulk Hogan. He said, like, the N-word a couple of times, right? You shouldn't be saying that, right? You shouldn't have any kind of, like, hate like that and display it, right? But that doesn't mean that Hulk Hogan isn't one of the best wrestlers of all time. He is what he is, you know? You can't deny it. So anyways, that's what I have to say about how many dead wrestlers I know. I'm sure there's a few that I'm missing. Let's see. Who has died? I don't know. I can't really think of any, honestly. Who has died? Crash Holly. Crash Holly died. That's really sad. I always liked Crash Holly. I thought he really stood out in the Attitude Era, despite the Attitude Era being, like, obviously very heavy with a lot of really big stars. Umaga, he's dead. Umaga was all right. Rosie, who was in a tag team with Umaga. Damn, they both died. Rosie and Umaga both are dead. They were both all right. I got nothing against them. I'm sure. I feel like I'm missing someone that's, like, very, very important. You know what I mean? But it is what it is. I can't think of anything else. All right. LBT Junkie also asks, what is my favorite Rumble match? Now, depends on how you look at it, right? I'm assuming he means, like, my favorite Royal Rumble, like, 30-man match, right? Not like any match that happened at the Royal Rumble. That'd be silly. So a few ones that I'm going to completely disqualify from contention here are Asuka winning the. Well, that actually wasn't that bad. That match, because I was there live, and it wasn't that bad because there were so many, like, surprises. Like, you'd see, like, Michelle McCool, Trish Stratus, that it's like that it kept you on your toes, right? That wasn't that bad. But Becky Lynch winning, that's like a horrible one. Let's see, Nakamura winning, that's complete garbage. I would have to say, honestly, that the best Rumble match, just from like an overall perspective, there's 3 that stick out to me, you know, or 4. I remember Royal Rumble 2000 was the first pay-per-view that I ever ordered. I had my mom order it for me when I was a kid. She was like, $30. I'm like, come on, Mom, please. You know? So that one was I enjoyed it a lot because I really liked The Rock when I was a kid. Like, I was, like, obsessed with The Rock, right? So I really enjoyed that one a lot, but it wasn't a great Rumble, like, overall. Then next year, Stone Cold won, I think, and I really liked Kane at that time, so I wanted Kane to win, and he was in the final 2 with Stone Cold. I knew, even as a kid, I knew Stone Cold was going to win at that point, but I really wanted Kane to win, so that pissed me off. And I have to say that my 3 favorite Rumbles are the one that Rey Mysterio won. I really enjoyed that one. The one that Chris Benoit won. And the one that Undertaker won. That one was really cool, too. That was really cool because the last 2 people were Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. And it felt like a singles match. They, like, wrestled each other for, like, 10, 15 minutes until Shawn Michaels went for the sweet chin music and Taker just threw him out, basically. Right? I really enjoyed that. But in terms of, like, if I have to pick only one, the number 1 Royal Rumble is the one that Chris Benoit won. Because everything surrounding that Royal Rumble was amazing, right? There was all these storylines, like Paul Heyman told Chris Benoit that he'd never be in the Rumble. He told John Cena, a young John Cena, that John Cena won't be in the Rumble unless he beats the FBI in a 3-on-1 match. John Cena comes out to wrestle them 3-on-1. Benoit joins him in the match. They win the match, which gives Benoit a chance, right? Now, it wasn't obvious that Benoit was going to win the Rumble, though. You know, like, every year it's kind of obvious. Even in the Nakamura year, it was kind of obvious, like, people were talking about it. It wasn't obvious that Benoit was going to win because Benoit's career had been such a mid-carder career that people were like, all right, this guy's never going to make it. He's just going to be, like, a mid-carder. Kind of like Nakamura is now, you know what I mean? Like, that's how people like, thought of Benoit. But he was always a guy that, as a mid-carder, he would always get, like, the occasional title shot, or he'd be, like, a 4-man match, like, for the title or something, you know. He'd always have, like he'd periodically have, like, high-profile matches, you know. So, but despite that, like, that Rumble was so loaded, right? It was so loaded with, like, either stars or people that you're like, all right, like, if they want to push one of these guys over, like, they had signed a bunch of new people, and if you really wanted to push one of those guys over, right, that would be the time to do it. So you had, like, Chris Masters, right? Carlito, like, these type of, like, that level of guy, you know, where it's like, all right, like, if you want to pull the trigger on Carlito, have him win the Royal Rumble. John Morrison, right? Fucking Shelton Benjamin. These people that were, like, kind of big deals, and you're like, all right, any one of these guys has like not a good shot, but a shot. And then of course you had like Shawn Michaels, Triple H, everybody else that's like, or not Triple H, he was a champion, but you know what I mean? Cena, Batista, these people that were legit like players at the time, or even Cena. Cena, like, if you want to pull the trigger, pull it on Cena, right? They did eventually, but not that year. So that's what I'm saying, right? There's like there's this idea that there was a lot of people in that Rumble that could have conceivably won. One of the big problems with like the Rumble nowadays, like the Rumble's coming up now, like very soon, right? And it's like, who here, honestly, like how many wrestlers right now can conceivably win the Rumble? Like we can assume it's not going to be Seth Rollins because he won last year. I mean, it's possible, but almost certainly not, right? Who can conceivably win? All right, AJ Styles has a small chance, probably not. Baron Corbin, he's getting a push. He would have a chance. The Miz would have a very small chance now that he's getting kind of like pushed. Daniel Bryan. That's it, man. Like and Roman Reigns. That's it. Like no one else has a chance, right? Like everyone else has a chance of basically zero. There's no way Kofi Kingston's winning it. There's no way that like Sami Zayn is winning it, or Nakamura, or Ricochet, or Roberto Carrillo, or even Braun Strowman now. Like none of these people are winning it. So it's probably going to be Roman Reigns, motherfuckers. So it's like it takes away from that. But in this Rumble, I remember to this day watching this Rumble and the video package before it. And the video package before it was like all these people saying like, oh, I'm going to win the Rumble, right? But it wasn't like them saying it to the camera. It was them saying it like in the previous few weeks as part of promos. Like every like Rumble season, people come out, they're like, oh, I'm going to win the Rumble. And you hear like Nakamura being like, I win the Rumble. No. It's not going to be you, kid. So, and in this one, I remember seeing all these people saying like, I'm going to win the Rumble. I'm going to win the Rumble. And me thinking like, man, a lot of these people actually have a shot. In the Rey Mysterio year, which was also a good year, like Rey Mysterio's odds were like 20-1. You know what I mean? Which I'm like, Rey Mysterio is one of the favorites for sure. Like Chavo Guerrero's odds were like 20-1. Fucking Viscera's odds, Big Daddy V's odds were 20-1. I remember this because I'm like, it's ridiculous. Like, there's a small chance that Chavo Guerrero wins because Eddie had just died, right? But if it was going to be like that, why not give it to Rey Mysterio, who is a superior wrestler? So there you have it, motherfuckers. All right, that's my favorite Rumble match. I don't know what year it is, but the one that Chris Benoit won, motherfuckers, that was great. And also, like, it made me feel good for Benoit because he really did deserve the win. Then he celebrated with his family in the ring, and we all know how that ended, motherfuckers. All right. Renegade Man 83 asks, what is my favorite Vince Russo storyline? He also, a lot of these questions were asked in rant form. You know what I mean? So we will get to them, motherfuckers. If you've asked a question and we haven't gotten to it yet, because we're almost done with the question, like question, part, but we will get to the rants, and I will, what's it called? I will talk about those questions in the form of a rant, if you understand what I'm saying, motherfuckers. So, now the opinion on Vince Russo that everyone seems to have is that he's just a horrible person, right? And he doesn't understand wrestling at all. On the contrary, fucks, Vince Russo is one of the guys that definitely understands wrestling. The only problem is that you have to know when to stop, right? Over-the-top things are what made wrestling popular. So, in my opinion, for example, one of the best storylines, right, that Vince Russo created was a very, very simple storyline when he had, what was his name? Sable's husband, not Brock Lesnar, motherfuckers. Mark Mero. Mark Mero, he was like, this like retard who would just box, and he was like this like pure athlete type, right? And he would come out with Sable, who got more over than him because she was hot. Now, the problem with that was that eventually this derailed Mark Mero's career because Sable powerbombed him once, and people were like, all right, I can't take this guy seriously anymore. He just got destroyed by a girl. But the storyline behind it was fantastic because it was like this guy who was jealous of his woman getting more attention than him. And that made for a lot of good moments, like him trying to cover her up, her getting like a huge babyface push, a bunch of things like that, And it kind of ended with him getting screwed, but it is what it is. A lot of people don't know, but Vince Russo also, I don't know for a fact, was instrumental, motherfuckers, in Booker T becoming champion. So they can blow me with that. Booker T is like one of those people that easily could have had a career and not been a champion. Or he could have had like a Mark Henry-ish type career, or like a Benoit-ish before he died type career where he has like one moment. But no, Booker T became a superstar. And part of that is the doing of Vince Russo. Now, as far as the worst storylines that Vince Russo came up with, I know everyone wants to hear, Judy Bagwell, right? Judy Bagwell and all that Judy Bagwell in a pole match. I thought that was actually pretty funny back in the day. And here's the kicker, motherfuckers. Anyone that watched wrestling back then thought that was hilarious. It's only now that neckbeards are like, oh, that's not good. I'd rather see a 2 out of 3 falls like handicap match. That's the problem. Back then, it wasn't taken seriously. Like, that was a comedy storyline. Part of the humor there is that, like, wrestling has gotten so absurd that you're having, like Santa's helpers, like, trying to get, like, a paddle on a pole match, right? With 2 girls dressed like as elves so they can spank each other in the ass afterwards, right? Like, that's not what wrestling is, right? So the last logical conclusion to this was, let's make a match, right, where Judy Bagwell is on the pole, you know what I mean? And the winner gets the rights to Judy Bagwell. This was great. I remember, like, Chris Kanyon, that's another dead wrestler, Chris Kanyon, when he had this, like, his phase where he was, like, pretending he was DDP, and he was out there just giving the cutter to everyone in sight. That was awesome, too. But if I had to pick one Vince Russo storyline, I think it's a Vince Russo storyline, but if I had to pick one that is the absolute greatest Vince Russo storyline, it has to be, what was it? Survivor Series fucking 98, I think it was. Now, this was after I started watching wrestling, right? Like a bit after I started watching, but not too far, right? Like, I started watching wrestling in like late 98, I think, or early 99. So this was like a few months before. Or maybe it was Survivor Series 97. Anyways, but the storyline was the WWE title was vacant, the WWF title was vacant, and they're having a tournament, a one-night tournament at Survivor Series to determine the number one guy and therefore the champion. And the storyline was that Stone Cold, motherfuckers, was the one that hated Vince McMahon, and he was the one everyone wanted to see win. Vince McMahon, on the other hand, had backed his champion, Mankind, motherfuckers. And somewhere over there, we have The Rock, who was kind of doing his own thing. The Rock's like, I don't give a shit. Like, I'll do what I want, right? I'm going to be champion. So the matches keep going, and we find ourselves to the semifinals. And in the semifinals, it's like The Rock versus, I forget who, but versus some guy that he eventually beat. And Stone Cold versus Mankind. So people are expecting Stone Cold and The Rock, maybe. And Stone Cold wins, and everyone's happy, right? No, motherfuckers. What happened was, after like a 17 screwjob match, Mankind beat Stone Cold. Now, what happened after that? Mankind, the corporate champion, the one that, Vince McMahon wanted, right? He went to wrestle The Rock. He was doing pretty well. Until he was screwed out of it by Vince McMahon, who picked The Rock as his new champion. Now, this was a fantastic storyline. Obviously, the thing that put The Rock on the map. Because it allowed The Rock to actually showcase a lot of his promo skills. Now, this is something that I consider to be one of the greatest storylines of all time. And let's not forget, Vince Russo was also responsible for the Attitude Era. So enough of this, it's like Vince Russo sucks, like, fucking rhetoric. No, absolutely not. Vince Russo, he a lot of times things have gotten ahead of him, right? He hasn't been able to, like, read the audience, but that's not really his fault, and I'll get to that in a second. But back to The Rock and his storyline. A few years ago, WWE found themselves in a very, very similar situation. And that situation was having fucking, Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose, right, wrestle at Survivor Series for the vacant WWE title. That's what they should have done. They should have had Roman Reigns beat Dean Ambrose by cheating. And then Roman Reigns becomes corporate Reigns, and he comes out next week with a suit with his hair tied back in a ponytail, right? Looking like an asshole. And Dean Ambrose takes on the role of Stone Cold. And you just do Stone Cold versus The Rock, but with these two guys. The reason they didn't do that, of course, was, let's be honest, Stone Cold is way better than Dean Ambrose. You could maybe push Roman Reigns, but they understood Dean Ambrose was a mid-card act. Like, did anyone think Dean Ambrose was going to beat Roman Reigns? No, motherfuckers. No way. But they could have done it again. Now, it would have been a little too cheesy because it's like the same exact circumstances, but it would have been great to see a heel corporate Reigns. And then when he turns face, boom. It would have written itself. So that was fucking awesome as far as Vince Russo goes. Now, the popular opinion is that Vince Russo is a loser and a guy who like doesn't understand wrestling. Now, that's not true. There have been times, like for example, in TNA, when he was in TNA, he had this thing where like Roxy Laveau and some other girl had a match. Roxy Laveau loses and she has to get her head shaved. Now, people started chanting, "Fire Russo," and I'm like, all right, I get it. Like, nobody wants to, I didn't like it either. I didn't want to see this girl get her head shaved, right? But that's just a Russo thing, man. Like, it's just what he does. It's like over-the-top shit. There's people that like that. The problem with Russo was that at that point was like the beginning of the neckbeards. And they're like, I don't want to see a woman get her head shaved. I'd rather see women be treated exactly like men and be respected the same as men are in wrestling so they can main event TNA Impact one day. And guess what, motherfuckers? That's happening now. Tessa Blanchard is going to win the TNA, whatever, world title, right? That was held by Sting and Kurt Angle. And she's going to be the new champion eventually, and whatever, in their next pay-per-view, which no one's going to watch. But anyways, that's what I think about Vince Russo and his storylines, motherfuckers. I think I have to talk about an opinion of Vince Russo in a rant, but that was kind of it. That was kind of the rant on that one, motherfuckers. I put that in the rant section. But anyways, MLDI7229 asks, who is more successful, John Cena or The Rock? Now, this depends on how you measure success, right? Obviously, in Hollywood, The Rock is more successful for now, motherfuckers, than John Cena, right? In wrestling, I think it's very clear. Like, John Cena, like, on paper, is more successful than The Rock. He's been around, like, he's been longer for he's been around longer for a period of time. What the fuck am I saying? He's been around for a longer period of time, cucks. That's what I meant, right? So, for that reason alone, he's had more opportunities to, like, main event WrestleMania, to close WrestleMania, to have, like, important matches, to wrestle everyone there is to wrestle. So, for that reason, Cena's been more successful, like, in the ring. I think Cena's a better wrestler than The Rock in the ring. Like, The Rock never had that many moves. You know, for all this flack that John Cena gets, like, he has 5 moves. The Rock only had, like, 3 moves, too. Yeah? He would do, like most of The Rock's matches with The Rock punching the guy in the face, stomping the guy while he's down, stomping the guy in the corner, doing a jumping clothesline, spine buster, people's elbow, rock bottom. Those were his moves. And the occasional Samoan drop and occasional DDT. That's what The Rock was. He was a very simple wrestler, you know? But insofar as, like, the most important kind of success, which is being over, no one's been more over than The Rock, motherfuckers. I don't care what people say. He was more over than Stone Cold. He was way more over than Daniel Bryan. Like, this is how you know that these, like, neckbeards have no idea what they're talking about. Like, they hear people doing, like, the yes chant, and they're like, no one's been more over than this. The Rock was infinitely more over. The Rock would, like, take the mic from Michael Cole and just say, quiet, Cole. They are chanting his name. And then everyone in the arena would start chanting Rocky. I remember me and some of my friends went to watch a Monday Night Raw when I was really small. And they were a little older than me, my friends. And one of them was like, he thought he was, like, cool. And he was like, he was going, like, against the grain. He liked Triple H, you know? Me and my other friend, like, we love The Rock. He's like a 98, 99 probably, right? So I guess I wasn't that little. How little was I? I was like 12, right? Whatever. So 12 or 11. So in that, like, The Rock cut a promo. And even my friend who liked Triple H turned on Triple H and started chanting, Rocky, Rock. That's as simple as that, you know? No one hated The Rock back then. No one. There was like 2 guys maybe in the audience would be like, Rocky sucks, get the fuck out of here. Everyone loved The Rock. So there you go. With that being said, I'd have to say the question cannot really be answered because they're both going, and arguably they're in the, not arguably, they're in the prime of their careers. The Rock is in the prime of his career, and Cena is in the prime of his career. Cena is transitioning to Hollywood, and we'll see how he goes. He might go really well. He might go all right. But I think when it's all said and done, I think John Cena will be more famous, like more mainstream than The Rock. And The Rock is like super mainstream. But I think John Cena is going to hit that same stride. And he's just, the only difference is he has a few years on The Rock. So I think he's going to win just based on that. All right. That does it with the questions. Let's quickly move on to the rants. All right. Morgan Stokes wants me to rant on Charlie's Angels reboot. I am so glad that he brought this up because I had forgotten about it. Now, for any of you that don't know, there was a movie made, I think, in the late 90s or early 2000s called Charlie's Angels, which was a remake or whatever. It was the movie version of a very popular TV show from back in the day, right? This movie was all right. A lot of people were excited about it back then, I remember. I watched it by myself in the theater. I remember some of it. It wasn't anything special, but people liked it, right? People liked it enough to warrant a reboot. The reboot now is this like ridiculous feminist nonsense, right? I urge everyone to go on YouTube and look at the Charlie's Angels preview. It's that girl, the weird one from Twilight, I forget her name. And she's basically like Rhea Ripley from NXT now, like in the movie. She's like a stoic badass. And she's like, yeah, like we can get it done. And it's just, she has like a boy haircut. And it's over the top. Like Charlie's Angels is supposed to be over the top because but they're Charlie's Angels, right? They're supposed to have this sexuality, this femininity, right? That this girl does not have at all. This girl is just like everyone's like that, man. I was watching like Spider-Man with my friend. I don't watch superhero movies, but I wanted to watch Spider-Man. Like the first Spider-Man with like the new actor, right? But I went to see it and I thought it was going to be an origin story. And my friend's like, no. They've already explained Spider-Man in like Avengers 3 or whatever, right? And I'm like, what? What the fuck? What about me who hasn't watched those movies? He's like, well, you have to figure it out. So we're watching it. And in the movie, every fucking character is like a woke pussy. You know what I mean? Like Spider-Man himself is like, no, I don't know what to do. Like Iron Man's like, oh, I don't know what you should do. Like, oh, you're not ready. What a piece of shit movie that was. The whole movie was fucking Spider-Man being like, oh, like, I'm going to do this. He causes some damage, some city damage. Iron Man comes up and he's like, saves the day, and he's like, you're not ready for this. Then in the end of the movie, right, Spider-Man destroys like nearly all of like Ellis Island, I think it was, or part of Manhattan. And then Iron Man's like, you're ready now. What? 30 minutes ago, you told me he wasn't ready for doing the exact same thing on a smaller scale. Fucking stupid. But anyways, all the characters, all his classmates were a bunch of fucking dweebs, man. Like, I know Peter Parker is kind of a dweeb, but he's always been like a dweeb that interacts with like the cool kids. But now, just like 21 Jump Street, or 20, was it 21st or 21? 21, that's called 21 Jump Street. That captured it perfectly. When Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum go back to school undercover, it shows that like Channing Tatum is not the cool guy anymore. Everyone now is like a Jonah Hill. Everyone now is just like a fucking nerd. You know, I like to read and you know, talk about botany, like that kind of shit, right? And this is no different, motherfuckers. This is no fucking different. Nothing is cool anymore. That's what it is. Nothing's cool anymore. Peter Parker's classmates, it's like Mary Jane is like some weird, like, not goth girl, but one of those like, I don't care about the world types. You know, Mary Jane's supposed to be this like attractive, confident, like girl that everyone likes. That's like integral to the character. And Spider-Man is not like 12 years old. But anyways, whatever. Charlie's Angels does the same exact thing. They take things that were cool, like the implications here are that it's much cooler to be this like Rhea Ripley type, right? To be this person who's like, yeah, I don't care about the world, you know, I'm too cool for my own good. They're telling us that it's cooler to be that than it is to be like someone who's like attractive, feminine, and likable. It's not cooler. It's not cooler. In the real world, people like Rhea Ripley and the idiot girl from Charlie's Angels, people like that, like normal people like us, look at them and are like, get the fuck away from me, you weird bitch. Like, I don't want to talk to you. You're not cool. I can tell, like, Rhea Ripley's like 22. She's trying to find herself, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm like a bad broad. People fall for it. She's like an idiot, man. In 5 years, she'll be 27. She'll be like, oh, what was I thinking? That was like really stupid. She probably just likes Darby Allin. Maybe her and Darby Allin can have kids. You know what I'm saying? Well, of course, obviously, it would have to be her penetrating Darby Allin because she's about 3 times his size. But you get what I'm saying, motherfuckers. So that's my thoughts on the Charlie's Angel reboot. It sucks, motherfuckers. LBT Junkie wants me to rant on Goldberg versus Taker. This is an interesting one. I was looking forward to Goldberg versus Undertaker. I know, they're old bags, but it doesn't matter. I remember watching the Saudi Arabia show that they were on with a friend of mine during the day at this place that I hang out at, and he was like, he's like, what match do you think is gonna close? And he was like, I'm like, it's gonna be Goldberg versus Undertaker. The match with the 2 stars is the one that's gonna close. And he's like, oh yeah, good point. And it does. And the match was obviously underwhelming, right? But to be fair, Goldberg got a concussion. You know, like if that's true, it's just an unfortunate circumstance. Now, of course, the older you get, the more likely you are to like get hurt and things like that, especially if you're like a former athlete, you know. But a concussion is a concussion. The match was obviously not what anyone wanted. It ended on like a choke slam, but they did what they had to do. Yeah. So I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, it's time for them both to retire. No, give him a chance. Like Goldberg had his match with Dolph Ziggler, which is a perfect opponent for him, because one thing Dolph Ziggler does is become very annoying, and he can take a lot of abuse. And Goldberg speared him. It looked like he killed him, man. So Goldberg, I'm not saying he still has it. Of course not. Goldberg is still going to be like a 5-minute match jobber, but there's still room there for Goldberg and Undertaker. They still draw more than Cesaro and Nakamura. So that's what I think about that. I thought the match was like obviously shitty, but I appreciate that the Saudi fans want wrestling that's interesting. You know, they always give them these big matches, and that's obviously to pander to them. But they're getting a good deal out of it. Like they're getting to see Goldberg versus Undertaker. It sucks, but whatever. They get to see that. Yeah. Next, I should be talking about people's names here, but I guess I will, because this guy's name is hilarious. Faggoty Faglet wants me to rant on Trump's impeachment. Now, I will be honest. I am not very familiar with the evidence that the Democrats have on Trump and whether he colluded or didn't collude with the Ukrainian government, or if that's the only thing. Because there's like 2 articles, right? There's another one. Now, despite the fact that I don't know the evidence, right? Because that's not my job to find out the evidence. It's their job to present it to me. And from what I've heard, their evidence is basically Trump made a phone call, and then like he also withheld aid, right? He asked for one thing and also did another thing, right? And the point is, can we connect these 2 things? And the answer is, of course not, motherfuckers. It has to be beyond a reasonable doubt. It's very reasonable that someone could withhold funds from the Ukraine for reason A, and then ask someone to investigate, let's say, Joe Biden for reason B, such as Joe Biden's son and his suspect behavior all over the world, right? So with that being said, but even taking all that like out of consideration, you would have to be a complete retard to not see the witch huntery that is going on with Trump since day one. I've never seen this in my life. I vaguely remember, I was a small immigrant boy at the time, but I vaguely remember, what's it called? Bill Clinton and his impeachment. I remember the Clinton administration, but that was like in the beginning. I remember Bill Clinton's impeachment. Now, the problem with Bill Clinton's impeachment was that too was fucked up. You know, I'm not a fan of the Clintons anymore. I used to like Bill Clinton because he did some good foreign policy, but that wasn't fair either, you know, because everyone was like, oh, like, did he get blown by an intern in the Oval Office? And he's like, no, I didn't. And then people are like, oh, he lied. And I'm like, dude, come on. Of course he lied. Was he going to admit to the whole world that he cheated on his wife? Like, that's ridiculous. Of course he's not going to do that. You know? The whole issue behind this is that the bipartisanship of like the U.S. government is such that one side hates the other, and they go after people a little too much. Like they went after Clinton for getting a blowjob, which is not good. It's a disgrace. A lot of people were like, this is disgusting, right? Back then, motherfuckers, blowjobs were like, whoa, blowjobs, like that's disgusting. What a whore. You know, now it's like whatever, everyone's blowing everyone, right? But back then it wasn't like that. Even 20 years ago, people were way more conservative than they are now. Yeah. So with that being said, the same thing's happening to Trump, right? They keep going after him. Like the whole Mueller investigation was complete nonsense. You know, they didn't find anything. You know, and when they didn't find anything, like the CNN retards were like, well, Mueller didn't exonerate him. What? You know who else didn't exonerate him? The hater didn't exonerate him. But that's not my fucking job. It's not his job. When you investigate someone, you don't investigate to find them innocent. You investigate to find them guilty for a supposed crime, right? Something that you suspect them of doing. So never in the history of the world has an investigator exonerated someone in the way that they were trying to use the word exonerate. Now, of course, there's been times when an investigator is investigating person one, and through that investigation, they found out that person two was the culprit, and therefore person one is exonerated. But that's not what's happening here. What's happening here was a complete witch hunt, right? They're just going after Trump because they don't understand, like, some liberals, not all of them, of course, but some liberals are very, very stupid, man. And that's like the number one problem. Number one problem is that, like, there's this thing called the Dunning-Kruger Effect, which basically says that you don't know what you don't know, but you think you do. You understand what I'm saying, motherfuckers? So you could be this complete retard who understands absolutely nothing about politics, but in your head, you understand way more than you think you do, right? Or than you do, I should say, right? And then you see people who understand more, like some conservatives who understand more, and they say things that you don't agree with, and you're like, they don't understand anything. I know more than them. But in fact, you're the retard, right? This actually is a psychological phenomenon. It's not something that I just made up. It's a thing where people that are very, very dumb don't realize how dumb they are. It's just how it is. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I think that's what's happening here. A lot of supporters, like a lot of liberal supporters, don't like Trump. And the powers that be, the Congress people, who are also idiots, don't get me wrong, like Nancy Pelosi is not very smart. Chuck Schumer is like Chuck Schumer, more like Cuck Schumer, am I right? So these people are taking advantage of how stupid, like, the Democratic base is, right? Not all of them, of course, but a lot of them, right? These people, you can tell them that Trump is literally Hitler, and they will believe it. Like, they're not smart people at all. So they're taking this and using it as leverage to go after Trump, right? Primarily, they know they're not going to get him removed from office. They know that. They're just trying to frustrate the process, right? They're trying to make it harder for Trump to be reelected, which he will, 100%. Bet your money now, motherfuckers. And more importantly than that, by doing this, they essentially busy Trump. They do what in the legal world we call frustrating the process, right? They just add more shit to his plate, and now he's incapable of taking care of other things that he should be taking care of, right? Or at least he's got his plate full. So that's the Democratic strategy. To do that, to pretty much for 3 years go after him, and then be like, he didn't do that much in 3 years. You were after him, and he still did a lot. You understand what I'm saying? So that's my opinion on the Trump impeachment. It's a sham, and I think, thankfully and luckily, it's going to backfire on the Democrats. Now, I'm not this super Trump lover, but there's a lot of, I think, just by listening to the hater, you can tell that the hater likes Trump, motherfuckers. Because Trump is just like me, or I am just like him, right? In the sense that a lot of us have this, not anger inside of us, but we want to say it like it is, right? And we don't want to necessarily be judged just by saying something like it is, right? Especially if we do it in jest. And we're very nuanced characters, you and I, motherfuckers. So Trump is just like that. He's a very nuanced guy. He says things, and you have to be like, okay, what did this mean? Right? Not reactionarily just be like, he said this, he must hate this and that, right? So Trump says he's like, from Mexico, a lot of rapists and drugs are coming, right? People are like, Trump hates, the logic went like this. Trump hates Mexicans, then it became Trump hates Latinos, then it became Trump hates immigrants. That's called logical leaps, right? And straw man arguments. He said something very specific. So the same thing with me. In my life, that happens all the time. When I say something, I go, is this what you meant? And I'm like, no, retard, figure it out. So that's what I think about the impeachment. I can't wait till it's over because I think it's going to help him get reelected, motherfuckers. All right. Next, we have the opinion of this Russo we talked about. Someone asks what my opinion on Jim Cornette is. Now, this is a very important topic. Jim Cornette really, really does understand wrestling. He understands what sells, right? He gets it. Unlike Triple H, he gets it. The problem with Jim Cornette is that he's too volatile, man. You know, and I like Jim Cornette because even though he's a liberal, he's not a pussy. You know, a lot of liberals are pussies. Jim Cornette is not a pussy. I can tell you that. Now, Jim Cornette being fired from NWA, I could see why. I could see why he got fired, you know. It's hard out there now. You can't say anything about anybody anymore. But I was watching an episode of NWA Power, and it was some guy, what was his name? Caleb Conley, who I've seen in real life, and I don't like him. Caleb Conley versus some Canadian jobber. And the Canadian jobber slaps Caleb Conley on the face, and says, "You think you can beat a Canadian?" Like during the match, right? You can't. And this was just to get some heat. Jim Cornette says something like, being like the best guy in Canada is like being like the smallest piece of shit in the turd bowl, right? Or something like that, right? You understand what I'm saying? Where he basically like shits on Canada as a country completely, right? I mean, he's joking, obviously, but he just shits on the entire country of Canada. No one gives a rat's ass. No one even notices. I never would have noticed that if I wasn't paying attention after like the, what's it called? The little scandal thing. I was waiting for the scandal, just in case they like left it there or something, right? And he just says this. And then when you really listen to him, his commentary is all like that. Like all his commentary is just like that. Like he's like, oh, he's tougher than 4 o'clock. Oh, he's more this than that. He's this than that, and then that and this, right? And in that, he said something like Trevor Murdoch is tougher than a guy who like run through Ethiopia on a scooter with like a bucket of fried chicken tied to him. Now, if this offends people, I don't really get it, because what's the offensive part? That Ethiopians are poor, or that black people like fried chicken? What's wrong with liking fried chicken? Like, why is this like why is it a stereotype, number one? And why is it considered a negative stereotype? I don't understand. I don't get it. Like, there's a stereotype that white people like extreme sports. That's kind of true. But even the stereotype is not like a negative stereotype. Yeah. Oh, like, what are you gonna do? Climb a mountain? What are you, white? Haha. Right? Like, that's not offensive. That's just like a thing. It's an observation, right? Now, Jim Cornette, the point he was trying to make in that was that Trevor Murdoch was really, really tough. So tough that even if starving people chased him, he would be okay. Right? That was the point. The point wasn't like, haha, let's make fun of black people. So if you can't see past that, this is called context, motherfuckers. Context. Context is the same reason why Dr. Dre can say the N-word and Eminem can't, right? It's called context, right? It's the same reason why I can call my girlfriend baby and I can't call your girlfriend baby. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's these things that separate like words from bad words and meaning from evil meaning. You understand? Or evil uno, motherfuckers. So that's how I feel about Jim Cornette. From a booking perspective, he's done a lot of things that I like. His run in TNA was memorable and good. I like Jim Cornette. And I like him as a character. You know, like the way he talks. He doesn't like Kenny Omega. Now, I think he goes a little overboard, because I personally have nothing against Kenny Omega or the Young Cucks. I have something personal against them now after what I learned from J-Rants. But beyond that, it's like Jim Cornette's cool. You know, I would like to see him be hired somewhere. You know, what's he called? Lars Henry was saying like AEW should hire him and have him feud with Kenny Omega, like as an authority figure. And I'm like, that would be like a great idea. That sounds fucking hilarious. You know. Anyways, next up, we'll leave this one for last because it's the one that I want to talk about the most. MLDI wants me to rant on Russo versus Lashley, motherfuckers. It's run its course. It's run its course. The answer is it's run its course. Like, what's the point? You know? Is there a payoff to this? Is it going to lead to anything? Probably not, right? It led to the match. It's done. It's stupid. It's like, I enjoy a good cuckolding storyline as much as the next guy, to be honest. But I did not enjoy this storyline ultimately. At first, I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. Rusev was like getting over again, you know. But we'll see if there's anything more to it. So I guess that's all I have to say about this. I'll rant about this more when it's over, like when we know for sure. Like, let's say it ends tonight on Raw, right? Then I'll do it on my Raw review, which I'll probably do tomorrow, by the way, motherfuckers. Moosh Nashman wants me to rant on the Super Bowl versus WrestleMania. Very, very, very comparable events. The Super Bowl is obviously the number one event in football, and WrestleMania in wrestling, right? They have the same feel. People get excited for WrestleMania weekend. People get excited for Super Bowl weekend. People get excited for the WrestleMania like main event. Or now they get excited for the NXT that accompanies WrestleMania. People get excited for the halftime show, right? Tickets are expensive. They both generate a significant amount of money for the city they're in. But the most important point of comparison is just the grandiose nature of them. They both feel like a big deal, motherfuckers. WrestleMania is watched by people that don't watch wrestling. The Super Bowl is watched by people that don't watch football because it is presented as a huge deal. This point cannot be stressed enough. The facts are what they are, cucks. WrestleMania and the Super Bowl are not about wrestling or football. They aren't. Nobody gives a rat's ass. If it was about that, people would be like, if football was about like who are the best teams, people would just watch the Patriots basically, right? And they'd watch things like where two teams are well matched up and you expect a great game. But people don't watch that. People are more interested in seeing like, I don't know, like, who's a good team now? The 49ers versus the Patriots, right? They like to see that happening because it's like, oh, this is like, both teams are doing well. Not that both teams are a good matchup for each other, but they're doing well. One of them's going to fail. One of them's going to there's a storyline component to it. Same thing with WrestleMania, of course. And in my opinion, Vince McMahon, if he's smart, and he obviously is, motherfuckers, once the XFL starts in a month and a half or whatever, Vince McMahon should do this. I don't know how it would work because obviously you want to start the XFL season after the Super Bowl. But if the season isn't that long, make it so the XFL, whatever the fuck they're going to call it, the XFL Championship, the Super Bowl for the XFL, is on WrestleMania weekend, motherfuckers. That is the correct marketing strategy for this. You save money on a stadium, right? You attract people there. Like most people are going to be there for WrestleMania, right? Now you attract people there that might also want to watch the XFL, right? You do a package. Buy like your WrestleMania ticket and you get a half price ticket for the XFL finals or something like that, right? There's people there already. This is the same strategy that ROH and AEW and everyone's going to do now, right? WrestleMania weekend, they have a show there because there's all these wrestling fans that enter the city that you're going to do a show. That's what I got to say about that. And finally, motherfuckers, for all of you that stood till the end of the 1 hour video or so that I'm making, the last thing we're going to talk about is from Freeball Persia. He wants me to rant on CM Punk as a smart philosopher. Now, before I get to this, I forgot to talk about the questions of the people asking in the comments. I wrote them down, but I forgot who asked them. So forgive me, motherfuckers, but I'm sure they'll get to you. Someone asked, Hater, what is your favorite Pokemon? Right, motherfuckers. When I was a kid, it was Squirtle. Now it's got to be Snorlax, motherfuckers. Snorlax is tight as shit. I like Snorlax. I enjoyed him. I bought the new Pokemon game for my Switch because I'm still kind of a nerd. And one of my goals was to catch a Snorlax. Did it. It was awesome. Next question that was like that was, what was it? Where's my list? All right, fuck it. Sorry, guys. If you wrote your questions not in the format that we're supposed to write it, that means I forgot it. I can't find the list. I just remember the Pokemon one. So there we go. Pokemon, Snorlax. All right. Now let's get to Freeball Persia's rant that he wants on CM Punk as a smart philosopher. Or maybe I should just do a separate video for this. I don't know. I'll talk about it now a little bit and probably do a separate video eventually. So CM Punk, aside from the fact that he ruined wrestling by leaving at a crucial point, he ruined wrestling, more importantly, with his bullshit pipe bomb promo, which is otherwise known as the Smarks Wet Dream. He just kept talking about how people like Tyson Kidd are being held down while people like Roman Reigns and other shit like that are getting pushes, right? More or less, or Cena is getting a push. The preposterousness of this is astounding. The first implication is that CM Punk is someone that understands wrestling. That's the first premise that we have to have. CM Punk understands wrestling. I don't agree, motherfuckers. I do not think CM Punk understands wrestling. I think CM Punk is a cuck. How do you like them apples? With all of this being said, the next thing that we must kind of consider, I guess, is, was CM Punk right? No, he wasn't right. People like Tyson Kidd need to be treated like Tyson Kidd. And people like fucking, what's it called? Luke Gallows need to be treated like Luke Gallows. CM Punk, not really, fam. Not really. He never had it. Let's be honest. He never had it, man. He was a guy that he was going to have a good career. No, don't get me wrong. CM Punk he's good on the mic. He's got some attributes, but he never had it. He's a poser. He's a guy that pretended to have it. Like he would be all dressed up and everything. You know, like, oh, CM Punk, like with his little tattoos, like, oh, I'm a punk. Like, oh, aren't I cool, right? But the realities were what they were, motherfuckers. The realities were what they were. This guy was just never cool. He was a nerd. And he took it too far. He nerded it out too far. And what we got from that is the pipe bomb promo, where people like CM Punk, who are nerds and losers, felt held down. You're not held down, man. You're just not good enough. Now, I can't talk about any kind of CM Punk philosophy without mentioning CM Punk Light, a.k.a. Austin Aries, motherfuckers. Jesus Christ. Austin Aries. Can you believe this shit? Austin Aries also thought he was God's gift to wrestling. Made me sick. Fucking hate Austin Aries for that reason. Same thing. Austin Aries is just this entitled little shit. He's as good as Cena, but he's being held down because he's small. In reality, he was just not that good, motherfuckers. He just wasn't that good. He wasn't as engaging. He wasn't as exciting. He wasn't able to do anything. So, keep that in mind. Keep that in mind next time someone brings up CM Punk and how great he is. CM Punk changed, to his credit, he changed the culture of wrestling. He has emboldened the neckbeard demographic. And the rise of AEW can be attributed to him. And AEW serves as an experiment to see whether what Punk was saying was right or not. And the facts before us show that Punk was wrong. Because if he were right, we wouldn't see what we're seeing. We wouldn't see tanking ratings for AEW. If people wanted to see Tyson Kidd and Luke Gallows, then people like Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt would be doing just fine. But they're not, motherfuckers. So keep all that in mind. The pipe bomb has ultimately gone to serve only Vince McMahon. Once AEW is out of the way and wrestling will have some sort of reinvigoration, WWE can benefit from that too. Don't think they can't. They can sign fucking, I don't know, Luchasaurus and fucking Kenny Omega, for example, and be like, these are the guys from AEW. And then have them job to someone. Just bury them more, just like they buried Booker T back in the day. That's what I'm saying, motherfuckers. So, that's all I got. That's all I got. 250 subscribers up in this bitch. So, keeping all that in mind, the hater's not going to slow down. You're going to see more videos, motherfuckers. The only thing is that I'm probably going to start sleeping a little earlier. And normally I record the video right after like Monday Night Raw. But it takes a while for it to like format itself and then upload. So I'm going to start doing that for the next few weeks, like during the holidays, basically. In the morning. So like this video I'm doing earlier in the day. And that's what's going to happen for other things as well. So I might get a video at night here and there, but it's going to be mostly during the day videos. Or they're going to be a day late or something like that. But anyways, motherfuckers, thank you very much for your questions and your rant topics. And we will do another Q&A and rant at some point when I have more subscribers. That's how we're going to do it. All right, fuckers. See you later. Happy holidays, cocks.